fundraising and the creator of Nonprofit Adventures. Welcome to our show today. I'm so excited to talk with you today. This show really is about helping leaders navigate the twists and turns of running a nonprofit. And Lord knows that we have had quite a bit of a twistiness going on in the world, and our world is changing. And it's kind of in some ways reminiscent of so a lot of sci-fi movies that we've seen about the end of the world. And I've been curious about what are some of the spiritual gurus, what are they saying about what's going on right now? And I happened to catch Eckhart Tolle's little video that he posted, and he talked about he used the parable in the Bible about building your house on solid rock instead of shifting sands. And he talked about the fear. He talked about fear. And when we feel fear, we are not here. We are fretting about what's to come. We are speculating about the future. And right now, as we feel all this fear, it's like it's just a good reminder, that when we feel fear, that's almost like being on shifting sands. But if you bring yourself right back here to the now and sort of look around and I'm in San Diego. Hey, I'm grateful for that. It's a beautiful day, as it always is. There's a lot to be grateful for. And so just a reminder to come back to the now. The situation that we're in is challenging, and it's really forcing us all to grow and to innovate and to adapt. And so as we think about that, how to grow and innovate and adapt, I'm really grateful to introduce our guest, Renee Zhao. She is one of my favorite entrepreneurs, and I love the story that she shares about how Donation Match was founded. And I'm going to let her sort of tell more about that. But if you've been in fundraising a while, like I have, I've done my fair share of events, and I know firsthand the pain of gathering in-kind items or donation items for the event. And Renee has just she's got a miracle solution. She streamlined that. Renee is an event person. Like I've also noticed in fundraising that some people are good with major gifts, and some people are good with direct mail, and some people are really shying with events, and so Renee is definitely one of those people. And so in response to the COVID-19, many of us out there have had to cancel or postpone our fundraising events. I know my clients, I have at least 4 or 5 clients who've had to cancel major events. And so I'm excited to invite Renee to talk with us about, how do we pivot? How do we, recover from these canceled events? And so let me bring her up here. All right, come on up here. Renee, welcome. Welcome to the show, Renee.
Hi. Oh, much better.
Yeah. Oh, yes, much better. So before we launch into talking about the events and our topic today, maybe you can share a little bit about yourself and Donation Match and how you got where you are today.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Thanks for having me on today. So as Janelle alluded, Donation Match was designed to streamline how in-kind donations were handled for fundraising events. And basically what happened was I was a small business owner, actually a franchisee of a company with 3 locations. We had a local co-op. I was the one that was managing donation requests for the entire county of San Diego. But just as much as that, I was also volunteering on silent auction committees because I really loved the partnerships between businesses and charities that were happening in that realm. But the more events I volunteered on, the more I realized, and I think I had my aha moment. Janelle, I may have told you this before, my aha moment was working for the San Diego Zoo's event, volunteering, and realizing that they were asking us as volunteers to go on weekends for several hours at a time, handing out letters to restaurants and stores. And that was my moment when I thought, if an organization like the San Diego Zoo, who you would think people would be throwing donations at because of their large, base of fans, had to resort to such measures to get their donations. This is just way too hard. And basically, I had admittedly been on dating sites before and realized that, that the dating site model actually made a lot of sense with regards to companies being able to all join a network of donors like they do on Donation Match and tell us who they're willing to donate to, whether it's a geographic boundary or a specific type of cause or event, and enable the organizations to come to one place to apply for them without having to fill out a single application for every company. So to serve as their common application. And that's basically our goal, is to be able to simplify that process into a single application for companies, to be able to reach companies that are willing to give to you and identify who they are, whether you know about them already or not. So
yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And so how many ballpark of how many groups are currently in the system?
We anticipate working with about 20,000 organizations this year.
Wow, that's just so awesome. And they're in San Diego, but they're beyond San Diego, right?
They're everywhere. Yeah. They're all over the U.S. and Canada.
And it's growing, right?
Yes.
Continually growing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's because the donors in our system aren't necessarily in San Diego. They're Navy Pier in Chicago. They're, we have some hotels on the East Coast. We have, other different amusement parks. Actually, I can now say that the Dallas Cowboys also use us as their donation portal. So they donate all over the US and Canada as well. And so it's a lot of different kinds of companies, some local, some regional, but no matter where you are, you should be able to find something in there.
That's awesome. I think that's so awesome. So you have nonprofits in the system, and they have a whole variety of events, right? Breakfast events or galas or festivals or, any kind of event might be in there. And a lot of them, many of them may have been postponed. A lot of them, like right now, have been postponed or canceled. And I'm sure this is like so overwhelming to so many people. So as we think about, the cancellation of events, what should we be thinking about first? As far as recovering from it.
So and excuse me if I looked down at my notes because there were so many things I wanted to cover that I had to write them down. I don't trust myself to remember everything. But basically, just right off the bat, I think I saw the number of events that were actively seeking donations in our system dropped from about 4,000 to about 3,600 within a week. So that 10,000, I'm assuming I talked to some of the event leaders, not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them are getting postponed. So the event dates are being changed, which is fine. Those stayed, but it feels like perhaps about 10% of the events at least, and I haven't checked the numbers today, were either canceled or unsure if they were really going to actually happen. And so they essentially got unpublished. So, and I'm sure as we move along and have a better idea, we may see more of that happening into April as well. But in terms of first, what to do when you are faced with that, do we postpone or cancel? I think the one thing I wanted to emphasize, and this helps donors, sponsors, vendors, attendees, everybody, is be in communication with them. Don't go into hiding. I think a lot of people perhaps go into, some kind of analysis paralysis, or it just feels so overwhelming that they aren't sure what to do. And of course, as a nonprofit, you likely have a board that you're already talking to because this is something that's very time sensitive. But I think even just putting something out there to everyone in your communication circle to say, hey, we're thinking about this, maybe you have some ideas for us. If you've made a decision, of course, then I would say communicate even just the basic information about that decision as soon as possible, because it gives everybody else the courtesy of
Mm-hmm.
doing what they have to do to adjust.
Yeah, knowing what to expect. Yeah, I think that's a really great suggestion. And I think that sometimes the hesitation to communicate is like, well, we don't have all the answers and we don't quite know when we're going to reschedule it. And but
Right.
I think,
Yeah.
I don't think you have to know all that to just
No.
say, hey, let me just tell you what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone else is dealing with it too. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, I'm on the cause conference committee that was supposed to happen May 20th and 29th. And we had just started marketing it. And of course, now we have to pull back on that as well. So, I am actively involved with several events to whom this is happening. So I'm going through these exact same steps myself. But yeah, it issued a communication. And actually, I did make a list here. I want to make sure that when you communicate, that of course it's your your followers, your donors, right? But very specifically related to your events, don't forget, because they may not be on your email lists, don't forget to notify the vendors, sponsors, volunteers, all committee members, and the venue, of course.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And perhaps any event specific staff that you have. So some of these people may not be on your regular email lists, and you don't want to miss them. In fact, some of the ones that are more event specific, you may actually want to call, because it is so important that you talk to them directly. I would say after any kind of blast or call communications to the most important people, don't forget about all the things you've published online. And I'm seeing this a lot myself because as people are changing their dates in Donation Match, I still notice when I talk to them directly and are helping them out that they forget to update Facebook events that they have. Mm-hmm. They're not updating their websites, which is where some people, some of their event ticket buyers may have gone to look for information. If you have online calendars, some people will publish to community calendars. Double check all those listings as well. And of course, if you have any automated reminders, if you have drip campaigns, pause all of those. Make sure if you have any reminders in your e-newsletters that those get updated as well. Don't leave them as is. And then, something else, I don't know if people still do this, but if you have any posters plastered around town, you may need to go and pull those back as well. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, as I was making this list, it made me realize that staying very well organized in this whole event planning process, the more organized you are, the easier time you'll have in making all these updates. Mm-hmm. So really, this is something that's probably more oriented towards the marketing team. If the marketing team knows or has a list of everywhere where they've published everything or distributed it, then they know exactly where to go and take a flyer back or changes on the website. So
yeah.
If you haven't done that, maybe start doing that for next time.
In fact, I went out for tacos the other day because the taco place is still open, and I was noticing on the window just all these different events in town. And I'm like, those aren't happening. I'm sure they're not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and maybe the taco place should have pulled them out.
I know.
This is a courtesy. But
what are some other things that we need to be thinking about with events? So we've communicated to everybody about canceling it. Any other tips or suggestions that you could share?
Well, so I'm sure that when you postpone or cancel an event, you have a lot of vendors and sponsors who need to adjust with you. And so I was on another webinar talking about canceled or postponed events, and the speaker was talking about the fact, and this is something that perhaps if you haven't yet sold tickets, you're going to want to think about, that a lot of, she always suggests that you have a ticket buying clause with respect to cancellations or postponements. And, this isn't necessarily it's not necessarily going to be a hard and fast rule. You can, of course, be flexible about it. But, Janelle, you may have seen this in auctions where you have this disclaimer where, if there are any changes or What you're buying essentially is at face value, and if it doesn't work out, then consider the ticket price a donation to the organization. This of course you're going to want to get vetted by your lawyers and have it in the correct legalese. But that's something that she, on a regular basis, has her organizations that she works with put in their ticket buying areas. And of course, again, Janelle, you with events, I always recommend that with silent auctions, sometimes restaurants go out of business, sometimes, for one reason or another.
Yeah, for sure.
Items out of the organization's control, cannot be redeemed.
I've got a ski pass in Utah that I got from a silent auction last year, and now they've closed this. And I can't get there anyway. So so it's just.
Yeah. Oh, so they may have to close early in the season, or
it happens. So it's okay.
But short of that, of course, working with your attendees to reschedule, perhaps use what they've already paid as a credit towards the next event that you're going to have, or the same event the next year. I see a lot of conferences doing that, which is good. But essentially, try to salvage what's already been done or purchased. With vendors, I know I think a lot of people's first inclination is to ask for a refund if possible, right? But I would say in this time frame, keep in mind that some caterers, any other services that you're using may need the funds to pay for services that were already rendered in preparation for your event. Whether they had already ordered something, if it's a very short-term cancellation, or if they had to do training or hiring for specific staff. There are costs to prepare well in advance. So, if you can't necessarily get a refund, especially if it's not in your contract, try to work out some kind of an arrangement where you can either use this credit for the next event. It doesn't have to even be the same event, as long as you can figure out a way to use them as a vendor. If it's a caterer, perhaps, you may need to break it up into a lot of smaller events if you have to, but whatever it is, try to work with them as well as you can in order to be able to honor, their time and energy put into helping you out just as much,
Yeah, it's kind of it's really an extenuating circumstance. It's really impacting. This is what makes this so fascinating. It's not just it's not just our community. It's not just our state. It's not our country. It's the whole world. It's wild. It's just,
exactly.
We're all connected, and I think extending a little bit of grace, and I think just all around, that. But I do recognize that sometimes you're already in it to a little bit, so cancellation is there's gonna be some, I know sometimes hotels will have cancellation policy, fees that you have to pay. I know I had to cancel. I was going to go to a major conference, the AFP International Convention, and I had to cancel the hotel, and I just thought, well, if I have to lose $100 to save $700, I'm going to do it. But I think that I think it worked out. But I can understand that. So
exactly.
Any as you've been sort of looking at this and seeing what people are doing, any talk of turning the event to a virtual event?
Definitely seeing that option happen as well. I think, it's interesting. I've seen a couple different opinions on that. It really depends on how tech savvy and how elaborate your event might be. If you have, say, a silent auction where you were already set up on mobile bidding and you were going to have a mobile component just as much as the in-person, it may not be a stretch to simply do away with the in-person and keep the mobile bidding portion of it, because it would have happened almost the same way anyway, via phone or by logging into a computer. But if it's something like a conference where you have multiple groups meeting in different rooms, oh my gosh, there's definitely software for that. And I know with the cause conference, we use one called Huva, who's very good, and they've actually integrated with Zoom and other online platforms to make it super seamless, and even facilitate discussions and hand raising and things like that. But you have to have a whole different set of skills to manage that.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I'm working with one group, and they had a big breakfast that they would do every year, and they had to cancel it, of course. And I'm just super impressed with their team. They just okay, we'll just make it virtual. And but fortunately they have a peer-to-peer campaign portion, that they could use, and they're I think they're just tech savvy enough to just say, okay, I think we can make this work. We've never done it before, but let's do it. And so, we made the breakfast virtual now, and it becomes almost it becomes a peer-to-peer campaign and emails, and we'll do some direct mail. So it's just going at it in a different way.
Yeah.
And, we'll see how it turns out. But, I guess it's like you do what you got to do. And
yeah. And I think too, there may be people in your committee that have already worked with virtual events before, before this ever happened. And so those are the people to pull in, and because they've worked out the kinks, they know they know the easy pitfalls. And so they're going to be the people who will be the most helpful in this situation to set you up and give you all the tips. I know actually someone you and I both know, Felina at Hera Hub, specifically has a team to help events transition to virtual events.
Wow.
I saw that recently. So I think there's a lot of people asking about that. And I still think it's an individual decision, because it's not as easy as saying, okay, we're online, let's buy this service and we're good.
For sure.
Different considerations. And like you mentioned, a lot more email communication, perhaps even incorporating texting. It really just kind of messaging depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Is there anything else that you could add about the events?
I'm looking at this right now. Yes. In terms of rescheduling, I think I'm noticing a lot of events are being rescheduled from the spring to either late summer or fall. Even thinking about the fact that a lot of events are doing that, where there were already events scheduled in the fall, might mean there's going to be too many events happening.
Right. Yeah.
So, and you're going to have to look at your own calendar as well, because, you as an organization might have had something else in the fall scheduled. And are you actually going to be cannibalizing on that audience in trying to do both? It's not just the donors, it's not just the time even, but it's the people, it's the contributors. Can you actually squeeze everything in that same time frame?
Yeah.
And do you want to?
Especially since everybody's going to get used to staying home.
Yeah.
I can understand that. And usually, I don't know, you probably have a bigger sense of when events happen. I remember one time looking at an event calendar, trying to figure it out, like where is the best month to have an event that's not like going to conflict with everybody's event. And it seemed like September was, for whatever reason, just crazy with events.
Yeah.
I don't know, because summer's over, and it was like September and May, at least in this case. I don't know what your what would you say are the busiest months for events?
It depends on what kind of events you're talking about, I think. I think a lot of golf tournaments would have happened this month, next month. Actually, in some parts of the country, the summer months apparently are the most popular time to do golf tournaments. But in terms of galas, I definitely think spring and late fall are the busiest. I see more events. Well, I see more events considering moving from spring to fall because people feel like there are just too many in the spring. But then the ones in the fall are also moving themselves a little later in the year to appeal to holiday shoppers.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe kick off their year-end fundraising as well. And tie that in together so that they can get people's attention on their organization during that time.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But then schools, you know, are all kicking off in the August, September timeframe. You know, not all, but a lot of them are. Year round, I guess, is a little more flexible there. So yeah, then you have the schools jumping in the fall, and early fall especially, and then sometime in the spring as well.
So tell us, what is the future of Donation Match? What's going on with Donation Match, and like, what are you know? Tell us about the platform, and like, what's your future plans, or, you know, anything you want to share about the company?
Well, so actually, one of our future plans does tie into, I just remembered one more suggestion I had for those of us who are not able to hold our own events right now. And that is that, you know, and we quietly launched it a little while ago, actually, which is on-site fundraising, or give back programs, we call it. And so we are working with a lot of our donors who not only donate product 100%, but are willing to donate a portion of their sales. And getting them to list those within our system as well, because that's it's a less time-sensitive way for them to support organizations that they're connected to. So we had some businesses in there that were essentially beta testing that for us, and we haven't all that launched really in terms of recruiting those kinds of programs yet. But you know, it is possible to do that, to look for programs that are willing to donate a portion of sales. And I mention that because right now, as you probably know, and we talked about this, Janelle, earlier, that you know, restaurants need our business, and you know, so much is closed. It's really nice to be able to go out, but you know, can't quite do that right now. Well, restaurants that are still open for takeout really need sales, you know, to be able to even stay open until, you know, to not have to close the entire business before this is over. And so something that organizations can do is look at the list of donors you have for your event, whether you're postponing it, whether you actually had it pushed out far enough that you don't even have to adjust the dates. But, you know, look at the donors that you have this year, that you had last year. Who has supported you? And is there any way that you can perhaps use this time to thank them, you know, to highlight them? You know, if for lack of other things to do, perhaps, you know, if you canceled your event and say, okay, I'm done, we're just going to have to wait till next time. Well, how can you thank your past donors, your sponsors, people who have maybe supplied food for your teacher breakfasts, or for your meetings and things like that, and be able to say, hey, you know, call them up and say, hey, if we start promoting this, can you give us a designated day where you will donate 20% of your sales to us? And I think they should be doing that a little bit more. It's something a lot of them do year-round anyway. And honestly, I think a lot of restaurants have forgotten that they have partners like organizations to leverage to help them out at this time. And it might be up to us to go to them and say, hey, we're here. We have 5,000, 1,000, whatever it is, supporters in this area. And we want you to stay open because we need you for our next auction. And how can we help you?
Yes. You've been loving on us. It's time for us to love on you. Yeah.
Exactly. You know,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, you know, that's an initiative that we had been working on at Donation Match. It's in there. It's just not super active yet, but it's definitely something that I think we all can do or can offer to do.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's like Chili's, and Chili's does that, and there's all kinds.
Rubio.
Yeah, Rubio's, and there's a taco shop in town here. It's kind of a social enterprise. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a good. I think those can be kind of fun. Yeah, a fun way to engage
Yeah.
your donors and the restaurants. Yeah, you're right. So that's
Well,
great.
that, and I do see restaurants doing a lot of, at least I get a lot of emails from my favorite ones that I've subscribed to. And I feel like, they're doing a lot of push marketing that way. But I feel, and some of them are donating food to the first responders and the medical industry, which is wonderful too. It's good to see that. And I feel like there's just so many ways for us to work together right now to help fulfill some of their immediate needs.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So how should people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
Sure. So we have our Facebook page, of course, at Donation Match. Donationmatch.com is probably the easiest way. You can go there, take a look at what we offer, sign up if you aren't already inside. We always have the little green help button in the corner that reaches us as well. People can look me up on LinkedIn. My name's pretty unique. I think I'm the only Renee Zhao in the world right now. No mistake there. But, happy to, you can always email me to Renee@donationmatch.com is my email address.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you, Renee. Yeah. It's been a pleasure to talk with you. And is there anything else you'd like to share as we sign off here?
I'm gonna look through my notes one more time. Okay, one more thing.
Hey, all right, final tip.
It's quick. This is a takeaway I got from my friend AJ's webinar, and that is to think long term. And so, in the grand scheme of things, this, whatever event is coming at you, and you're fretting about right now, don't forget that it's still one moment of time in most people's worlds, and you can handle it, of course, gracefully, but keep the big picture in mind when you're making decisions about it, because it is still just one moment in time in your organization's year and your history. And there are a lot of other things you could be doing perhaps to maintain good relationships that, may or may not have to do with the event itself. Hopefully don't get too stressed out over the event. Do what you can. You were talking about before, fear tends to overtake people sometimes, and it's best to focus on what you have control of.
Yeah.
And maintain the big picture.
Yeah. This too shall pass, right?
Yep.
Yeah. There could be. Yeah. There's always something worse. There's always something worse.
We hope not, but yeah, there could be.
Just be here now and take it. Just try to take it as it comes. Because when you are in fear, it just robs you of energy. It just takes energy from you. And I don't know about you, I've been tired lately. I think there's like so much craziness going on in the world, but anyway, just try to take it as it comes and stay away from CNN, and it's all good. All right. Well, thank you, Renee. It's been great having you, and we'll say goodbye now. And,
okay.
I'll see you next time.
All right.
All right. Okay. So thank you all for tuning in today. So our next show will be held here live in the Facebook group on April 7th. We'll be having Greg Nielsen from Nielsen Consults back on the show. You've heard him before. He'll be discussing the board response during challenging times. So if you're a board member or an executive director, you won't want to miss this. Greg really knows his stuff, and he thrives on working with boards that are having really big challenges. So I'm looking forward to having him on. So finally, I just want to make you guys an offer. So you may be you are likely in a place that you need to take stock of where you are with your fundraising and how do you elevate your fundraising. And so I'd like to offer affordable fundraising's assessment. We do a fundraising assessment for 20% off. It's $295 normally, and we'll do it for $236. So the assessment is done via a 90-minute interview. So it'll be an interview with me. We do it via Zoom. Obviously, now it's via Zoom for sure. And it really evaluates your fundraising in 6 domains. And the report that we prepare will provide you some strengths and weaknesses in each area. And then the best part is really, this list of recommendations of what you need to do. And so sometimes what I've seen is board members will sit around and they'll say, we need to get better at fundraising. And then, but nobody's really been trained and nobody really knows what they're doing. And so then the next year, well, we got to get better at fundraising. And then it doesn't really, so if you're actually ready and you want to know what it takes to, really level up your fundraising, this is a really great way to do it. And so I'll be putting a link into the feed. And if you're interested, you're welcome to take advantage of that. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And hopefully this can help you as you think about finding a way forward. So thank you for all the hard work you're doing in the community. I know this isn't an easy time, but hang in there, and I hope you all stay well and healthy. So thanks. We'll see you next time.